Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, wait. There's Tyler. You can see everybody.
I
Um,
can't hear you, but miss you guys.
he says he misses you guys. So we're on the shared vision call, and I want to thank Louisa for doing the brief that you did on the new initiative, the new-ish initiative. It is new
Right.
initiative. Uh, So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Um, so I'm gonna pull it.
While she's pulling it up, I'm going to ask you all a question so we can kind of chime in and see. So the usual standard question getting on a conference call is, how are you arriving today? And I will ask Amanda, how are you arriving today?
Um, I'm actually in a really good positive mood today because it's the first day of spring and this has been one of the worst winters I've ever experienced. So I feel really positive about new things happening. Yeah, so I'm really energetic about what's to come over the next couple months.
Are we popcorning?
Yeah, so we're popcorning. Amanda, you have to pick somebody.
Oh, I will pick Hassan then.
So I don't know, where are you at, Amanda?
I am in southeastern Minnesota.
Okay, so we're probably experiencing the same kind of weather because it's warmed up here for a while. I'm in Detroit.
Oh, yep, okay.
I mean, we had polar vortex and high wind. It's super cold, but the last couple of days have really warmed up and it's starting to feel like spring is just around the corner. So just feeling good. Louisa?
I'm coming super excited to go to France. And I feel like a little crazy and frazzled right now. So, sometimes I forget things, but I'm going to France and then I'm going to be back in Memphis for 2 days. Then I'm going to Washington, D.C. for Kaufman and then come back for a week and then go to Minneapolis for MBIA and then come back and then go to Kaufman in like a month after that. So it's just like a little, but I'm feeling good about it. I feel very fortunate to be so busy doing things that interest me and I like to do. So the schedule is full, but it's not a bad thing. And I guess popcorn to Cecilia.
All right. Well, great. Thank you. So I'm at the SCN Summit in Portland. I'm really happy to be here. And these are some really cool little buttons that we have. They're your battery. So it's a full battery. And then your battery is half charged. And then you have an empty battery. So putting it on lets people know where you're at. Like if you're feeling kind of introverted and low battery, that people don't come up to you and kind of get all excited and try and figuring out that you're not there. So I really like this. I think Larkin wants to make a digital version of it. So that would be really cool to have at an event, to be able to tell people how they're arriving or what mood you're in. So I am right now, little green battery. I'm feeling like that might be Eric. Is that Eric joining us?
You have guessed it correctly, and I'm sort of mobile, so I'll put myself on mute for most of this, but glad to be listening in. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, before you do that, I'm going to ask you, so the question to check in is saying, how are you arriving today? So tell us how you're arriving today, Eric.
Fully caffeinated, green battery, energized.
Excellent. And then somebody else joined us. It's a 608 number.
That is me. So Meg here from Minnesota. And I don't know what other question was asked, but I am arriving not caffeinated and probably not as energized. So I appreciate already, Eric, your energy to sort of bring me back and center me on this conversation.
Fantastic. All right. So Louisa shared in the Slack channel the brief that she wrote. We're going to try to get you to transfer that brief onto a simpler canvas. So okay. I think we're going to end up right now, at least for now, trying to use a community canvas that Andy had pulled up, and I'll send that on to you. Don't worry about doing it before you go away on your trip. If somebody else would like to tag team and help Louisa by transforming the information onto the canvas, that would be greatly appreciated. So I will drop that in the Slack channel. I think is that the easiest place for everyone to look. Actually, what I may end up doing right after we get off the call is I'll email all of you so you have each other's email addresses and able to communicate on this. So Louisa, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your brief?
Okay, so this was the Living Dictionary one, and I'm trying to, I have it as view only. I guess I'm just so that you guys can see. I didn't want people to start editing it because it's not in the, I know that it needs to go somewhere else. But if you need me to make that not view only so you can copy it, I'm not sure if you can copy and paste, that's fine, just let me know. So yeah, this is the Living Dictionary for Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Building, and essentially like high level view is talking about the problem that because we're relatively new, kind of like pioneers in this field, we do not currently share a cohesive terminology for the work that we do, which is a problem, especially, you know, my work is measuring ecosystem like success or indicators. And when we have, I had a meeting this morning, 4 different accelerators that think 4 different things are important, but maybe they're talking about the same thing. It's very difficult to like coalesce or like create collective impact when people are talking about different things, or maybe they're talking about the same thing, but using different language or measuring it slightly differently. So I think that this work will greatly help our work in Goal 5, which is quantified methods, but also will greatly help our work in Goal 2, which is about collaboration, because it's very difficult to collaborate with somebody when you're not speaking the same language, and storytelling as well. So that's basically like the high view. The goal that I would like for us to accomplish with this particular it's not supposed to say initiative 2, it's supposed to say initiative 3, but part 2, I guess. The goal that I would like for us to accomplish is that we have some sort of digital like wiki sort of thing that can be edited or updated similarly to Wikipedia, that allows ecosystem builders to quickly access it. It allows stakeholders to understand what it is. If they want to like look up the term ecosystem building, that would pop up. And that I think the Kauffman Foundation can be really pivotal in this work, as a lot of people, they put out a lot of grants. They make a lot of grants in this space. So having shared lexicon about the difference between an output and an outcome, or, you know, just things like that will be very helpful for ecosystem building organizations to better speak about their work and to better evaluate their work. So that's basically the top line.
Right. So anybody have thoughts, feedback, input? I'm going to ask Amanda.
No, I thought that was really great, and I think it's really interesting that you're kind of phrasing it as Wikipedia, because everyone kind of understands that. I guess my question would be, are you envisioning it as kind of community curated in terms that people would submit definitions and terms and potentially metrics, and then they'd be curated, or what are your thoughts around that?
I'm not entirely sure like what the like deep logistics that go into something like Wikipedia. Like I'm just not aware. But
that's why I was asking you.
but I think that if I think that the way that Wikipedia works is that, and I think that this would be a similar thing, right? Like people submit and then it's reviewed by some sort of place. Mm-hmm. And then that the definition goes up and it can continue to be edited, sort of like a living dictionary would be like the ideal situation, but who knows?
I really like that because it gets buy-in from everybody too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an added initiative around this goal, and I don't know if you've seen it. I shared a dashboard with everybody, which is something that Christine had helped create that houses the information across all the goals. And there were some other things that were brought up in a lot of conversations. So it becomes a field mission, vision, value, outcomes as one of the initiatives. The living dictionary is, as Louisa mentioned, and Andy was geeking out with a dictionary the other day, and he said it's actually common terminology. So terminology are the phrases and terms that are used in a certain industry. So it's not quite lexicon, it's not quite vocabulary. It's so terminology is like the nuanced whatever, because like I said, you set Andy loose with the dictionary. These are the things that come from it. So, so wonderful and interesting. There's a Universal Ecosystem Builder Pledge, and I think that still has to be something that we get more people chimed in on. But there was something else that we talked about when talking about Wikipedia. The 3.4 becomes updating Wikipedia, because if you look at Wikipedia now, there's no entrepreneurial ecosystem, there's no entrepreneurial ecosystem builder or ecosystem building. And what the common perception is, if it doesn't live on Wiki, then it doesn't really exist. So I have sad news for all of you. You're not quite ecosystem builders, because Wikipedia doesn't say that it's a thing. So, so we're envisioning that possibly we could do some kind of civic hack day or hack evening, or a couple of hours where people come on and they help hack this thing together. So it's definitely a group activity, and I think that out of that comes part of Louisa's thing, where those dictionary items are crucial to making sure that we put in the right or the appropriate or the commonly agreed upon terminology. Meg, does that resonate with you?
Yes, sorry, had to get myself off of mute. Yes, I think so. And I think it's actually been really interesting that, to your point about this sort of work not being listed on Wikipedia, we've been putting out some information on metrics within our own ecosystem. So we're looking at a dashboard to sort of measure how we're doing as an ecosystem and how our startups are doing. And we use the terminology innovation ecosystem or startup ecosystem. And I've even had to look for places, where do I link so that someone that's not a part of this ecosystem building community can understand what an ecosystem is in sort of their own context and from their own perspective. So I think from both sides, sort of the side that we're putting it together as ecosystem builders and having that common terminology, but then also from the external side of putting that out in a place where others can access that information and understand this work better, it really resonates with the work we're doing currently.
Right. I think that, I'm not sure if you're going to talk about this later, but I think that an important step that happens before that is, or maybe happens during that process, is us offering up like what terminology we wish to define.
Right.
So I think it's both and, right? So I don't know that maybe it does happen simultaneously. We're going to feel the energy of what that feels like, and I mean, that's why it's a community. So ecosystem building is a team sport. So we're needing to chime in together and figure out what the cadence of that is, or what the first next steps are. I think that maybe we start off with some terms and start having people input. So I did an exercise yesterday here at SCN, and we did something called the chalk walk. And chalk walk is where you put down words and then have people chime in with basically a brain dump of the ideas and thoughts that come to mind as they see this term. And then they synthesized it and reported back. So one of the terms was ecosystem. So I will share with you some of the things that came to mind, and I'm wondering whether or not it's I'm curious to see whether or not we're able to do that virtually, right? Where we put down terms that we all use: entrepreneur, ecosystem building, um, collaboration, things like that. And then we just put out an open document and open source it and have people chime in on that. I don't know if it works. I mean, it's never been done, but neither has, I mean, ecosystem building's kind of sort of been done by a lot of people in different ways. So, Eric, what do you think of that?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm on phone and video. Yay! I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about how the Chalk Talk went, kind of what its process was. There's so many tools for these different things, so I'm sure that and you don't want to get too wrapped on the tools. You want to spend like a couple of days, a couple of people thinking about tools and then throwing them together and saying, Louisa, is this the kind of thing that you had in mind? Is my perspective. But I'm sure that there's a tool that can help do something similar, and then you adjust based on what the limitations of the tool are versus, I don't know, I'm just babbling, so that might make sense.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that, Hassan?
I don't really have anything to add to that. I'm just trying to envision how that would, like, what's the best approach to do that. And as Eric mentioned, I think there's probably a tool out there that could help with that. Because I think to just dump it on, a Google Doc or an Excel sheet and have people just chime in would get really, really, really crazy.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm curious, maybe somebody like Mike Flesh would be interesting to get on this from the Value Web, because that's what they do, right? They synthesize and catalyze information, especially at large convenings. And it might be something that we do at the ESHIP Summit, right? Where we have terminology and have people write out what their definition is of the term. No. I mean, this is all a big social experiment, and I don't know if Louisa has any idea for how we put together this dictionary. Like, first of all, I think that all of you on this call are needing to be. I mean, you're instrumental in kickstarting this initiative. So put it together the way you feel is comfortable, right? Put together a framework. We'll test it out on this group, and then we can expand it to the wider ESHIP working groups community. And it's not like all of a sudden you put it out there and thousands and thousands of people. I mean, when it becomes the wiki level, it does, where other people are going to chime in, right? So until it gets to that point, I think that we beta and we see how it goes. So Louisa, how are you envisioning this thing going?
I imagine that probably I'm kind of confused about like how it would happen. It would happen between like the summit and then beyond the summit. I don't quite know, but what I'm thinking is that maybe at the summit we would like kind of lock down the terminology that we're like wanting to define, or kind of like posing the question, posing some sort of question that's asking people what are the things that you wish that we could define, or what are the things that that we we don't have consensus on, basically, and let that be kind of a collaborative brainstorming of just understanding what terms do we need to define, like what terms do you wish that we could define, maybe at the summit, and then perhaps after that there would be some sort of, or maybe at the summit again, I don't know, but some sort of like digital way that people can submit things, or at least talk about what would be something that's important to them that would be a part of that definition. I imagine that ultimately, maybe there'd be some more steps in between the big inception and the final product, but I imagine that ultimately, like the final product, literally it could be just that these things live on Wikipedia. Like we don't have to make a new platform. I think you might have alluded to that earlier, but yeah, like these things could live on Wikipedia after we have some sort of like consensus around what it is we want to define and then what's important for us to put into those definitions. That could be all like put together and that kind of in a compact, nice, tight way, and then go onto the Wikipedia.
Eric, you have something to add to that?
He says,
Well, I was going to put it in chat because I think it was silly. So I hopefully a friendly amendment or something to maybe play with or consider. Since it's March Madness, I've actually seen a couple things with ELGL and somebody in my community that are doing brackets. And so basically they're going to put, 64 or however many different, or 32 terms or something. In my town, it's like, what are the favorite pizza places versus that? And we're trying to identify what's the most Albuquerque thing that's out there. But if we're to use kind of that, I forget what you call it, but basically if you use that as a way to help vote on, something that's 16 different terms, and we want to identify the top 4 that we need community input on, that's a way of getting those choices ranked in a fun, engaging way, because otherwise, some folks don't tend to participate.
right.
It could also be a total hot mess.
Yeah. So I agree. It's like there's collaborative kind of thoughts and like people giving the thoughts, and then they'll be coalesced down, and people can like the collaborative or like shared or live element of it is not that people can go in and like update everything, but that they provide collective impact, but then there is some sort of gatekeeper that like actually makes it happen.
So it sounds like we're doing like a big word cloud to see which terms get inflated, right? When you do those word cloud things on apps and at events, it's the one that got sent back the biggest is the big word in the word cloud. So think about, first of all, I want all of you to think about the ESHIP Summit as just a point in time, right? It's like where we put a pin and have people come together. I don't want you to think about solving this for the summit, because our work is long-term work. It doesn't just end because we get together in May and go, okay, we're good, right? That's actually where the work begins in delivering all of this content. So what we're working on doing is having national resource providers, so organizations that support ecosystem building, help the ecosystem builders to take these initiatives like this. So maybe we invite people from Wiki to come to ESHIP and go, this is mass collaboration. This is ecosystem building, at the most intense level, right? We're all coming together. So also think about the things that we could do at the summit that we can't do virtually. So I think that this group is the people. You're showed up on the calls. You're working in this space. You're integrally involved in this vision to come up with terms that resonate with you. If it resonates with you, chances are good that it resonates with the majority of people in the ESHIP community. So think about it that way. You're the spokespeople. Look, the people that show up get to make the decisions, right? Other people can add to it, but if you're not involved, then your input is only weighed by the amount of time. Now, I want to balance that by saying sometimes the people that are able to show up have the privilege of being able to make the time and space. So it doesn't mean that people care less. It doesn't mean that they don't have skin in the game also. It just means that you have to start somewhere, and if the people that are in it rolled up their sleeves and are getting their hands dirty to do the work, you get the first opportunity to come up with the things that resonate with you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, Meg, what do you think? What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
I think that's a great point, and I think know exactly how it looks, but I do think I liked Luisa's point about does this actually live on Wikipedia, and how can, again, we use our people power and those of us that are showing up and can commit more to the work, leveraging people at ESHIP, but then not, you know, completely reinventing the wheel. And I think maybe Eric said it, not focusing solely on the tools that we use to do that. So I don't necessarily have any brilliant ideas, but I think we're headed in the right direction on how to sort of crowdsource that data. And I love the idea of something in the early stages that's really fun and accessible, and whether it be on Twitter or other things, just to get that first sort of sourcing of what do you want defined, and then take it from there sort of in a more systematized process.
Amanda, do you have any insights on best practices for doing something like that?
I was just thinking about that, about what you were saying about what can you do at the conference that you can't do, and I really liked the idea that Eric said about gamifying, and then adding a little bit of what Meg said. I mean, what if you went in the first day and, you know, this group on this call could come up with a bunch of words that we think aren't very well defined. You could have a cloud, and there's 3 days of the summit, so it could be like a bracket. So maybe you vote on a Twitter poll, you know, the top ones make it through to day 2. Then you vote again. So if yours isn't your word, and how exactly this works, I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but you know, the words that you feel really need to be defined because they're really important, and the words that need to be defined because it's unclear what they are. So maybe at the end you come up with a list of, let's say 25, that might be way too ambitious, but you could actually vote through each day, and you show up, you vote on the Twitter poll, and then you could have something live and interactive, even just a TV screen. So already using tools that exist that people are aware of, but I think people get really excited about that. They go in and see it, they want to interact with it, and at the end you could have, you know, at day 3 at the end, because you always have some drop off too on the last day. So maybe, you know, you can engage a little bit more in seeing what those final words are. And then, like you said, you're showing up, you're voting by being there and voting with your smartphone power. Now, it wouldn't limit it to that space, I don't think, but in terms of people not in that room could have a say, but does it matter? Probably not. I mean, they're still interested. So, but I really, really like the idea of adding this on to Wikipedia as well, because number one, nobody has to build it and people are already going there. So, you know, the problem if you built it elsewhere is that people would have to know about it. So use what tools are out there. Don't make it more difficult on ourselves. I think that's a good best practice. We always try and, like you were saying, Eric, get mulled down in details and just use what's out there.
Yeah, I like that. And what do you mean people drop off on the last day? You guys are all staying until the bitter end. Louisa, does this align with the vision that you had for your brief?
It does, yes.
And so what do you think are next steps?
I think next steps are putting the brief that I did into the correct format. I'm sorry that I did not do that.
No, wait. We've been changing the format. There's no wrong
Because I've been like, I don't know.
Draft. It's just a draft.
But yeah, putting that into like the more boiled down format. There were some things in the brief that I didn't fill in, like the timeline. So I think that might be a good next step, is kind of like figuring out what timeline of execution want to do this. Maybe even before that is like just making a decision on like how this will show up at the conference. I think that there's like a jillion different ways to skin the cat, but like it sounds like the one that sounds really fun is the one that has been talked about, like gamifying with the bracket or screens or something like that, or a text to vote type situation. If that can happen, if the foundation can make that happen, I think that it's wonderful, and we probably could just move forward with it because it sounds like a great idea. And then I think that this should be, after the summit, like this should be something that goes onto Wikipedia, that is kind of like curated by a chosen few.
Okay, so I'm going to share this video with Mike and the Value Web team so that they can see how they can make some of that stuff work. And I think that that definitely helps. So I want to talk about a couple of things, and then I want to get some input from all of you. So the idea of the brief template really started out as being a more defined process, and since that's happened, so it's not a wrong brief or a right brief or anything like that. It's just a format. So we wanted more information because at the time, we were talking about presenting it to NRPs, kind of in a maybe more of a formal process. Since then, we've talked about the need for having these briefs being presented to the people at the ESHIP Summit, people that haven't been on the calls, people that are new to this work, people, the NRPs that are going to be there. So what the reason that we've tried to create a simpler, smaller brief is that we want you to be able to have it when you like imagine yourself, and I'm sorry for those who have been on other calls who've heard me say this. So imagine when you get to the eShip Summit and they hand you the program book that tells you what the schedule is and some of the other work. We want to be able to have on one page, ideally, 2 pages if needed, just a description of the initiatives, the 32 initiatives that have been raised up under these 7 goals, so that you, first-time reader, can turn the page and go, oh, wow, this resonates with me. I want to work on this goal, and be able to walk over and talk to people and work on that goal. So that's the reason that it's needing to be simplified and condensed. Okay, because we can't print an 8-page brief and put that into the program guide. It just won't work. So, and who wants to read all that anyway? So we really just want a simple introduction. Does that make sense? So, so thank you for nodding your heads and affirming that that makes sense. So that's what we're working on is how to simplify that opportunity. If we don't get all of these things, the way that we want to present it at the summit, we're going to need to think about what it looks like to do it virtually. And so think about that as well in the next week or so. Louisa, you're not allowed to think about any of this stuff until you come back from France. But think about, if you were looking at this and wanting to participate, what can we do when we're all together? What can we do virtually, simply? And then how can we get it up there? Because I think you're all spot on with, it's got to eventually go into a platform that's not owned by anyone in particular, right? I mean, the wiki people command it, right? But since that's a source that people are using anyway, let's take advantage of that. So are there any questions on that?
No, I just had something to say about just listening to Amanda. I thought of something in terms of like, how do you define all of these words? So, I mean, even at the summit, if there was something as simple as what we did with the Post-it stuff on the boards. So like you could do that in 4 steps. So first step is you surface the words by inviting people. What are the words that need definitions by people? I mean, throughout this is over the course of the 2 days. Once, and then someone goes through and identifies whatever, if it's the top 25 words that need to be defined. And then once those are identified, then at some point, other point during the summit, you have other boards where people go in and post what their definition is of those words. And I think you'll find that there are, when people are trying to say the same thing, but they're saying it differently. So then it just takes someone or a group of people wordsmithing what all of those different things are to one thing that everybody can agree on. And then that lives somewhere where people will say, okay, this is how now we're going to describe or define this thing collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I think that's a good plan. So just a couple of things on the summit, and then we're going to wrap up just a little bit early. So I think we're off to a great start. Thank you so much for the work. Thank you, Louisa, for putting that information in. And then I'm going to ask if Eric or Hassan or somebody could transfer that information into the Canvas brief, that would be ideal.
I could do that. I'll
Okay.
do that. I had kind of the same question Louisa had, because I had that link of where you shared the community canvas. So should I make my own copy of it and then, okay, all right.
Okay, so yes, make your own copy of it. I'm going to email that out to everybody. It may not to be until later on tonight, since hopping in and out of stuff, but you will all get that along with each other's email addresses, and then you're all on Slack, so you'll be able to communicate, except for Louisa, who's on, like, she's in Paris timeout. But what I would love for you to, okay, so summit stuff. May 21st to the 23rd, you, having been to the summit before, should have already received an invite. Is that
Got it today.
okay?
Yep.
All right. So you should have received an invite for anybody who's been there before to sign up to attend. If you've not been to the summit before, then open registration starts at the end of the month. If you do not get notification by, let's say, April 1st, please let me know so that I can make sure that you have that. So April 1st is like everybody. Those who have been there before and have not gotten an invite, please let me know at the end of the week so that we still have a couple of days before open registration starts. Fair? Okay. And then those people that I know, I sent an email. I have to send an email to the ESHIP champions just to follow up on stuff that we talked about. So, Louisa, if you need anything before you go, let me know. Okay?
I have one really quick question about the summit. There's
Mm-hmm.
one person on my team who I would like to bring with me, and so she'll get the general registration, but I'm not sure if she's on a list to like be notified when it's open. How will I make sure that she knows?
So, is she signed up for the CAFA newsletters and the eShip Summit stuff?
No, but I can tell her to make sure she signs up for that.
Okay. Otherwise, message one of us and we'll forward it on to the team that's taking care of that.
Cool.
Any other questions? You're fabulous people. Thank you for doing the hard work that you do. Looking forward to seeing you all in person soon at some time or other. Some of you sooner rather than others, right? So we're going to all wish Louisa well. Please eat lots of fabulous food and see wonderful sights for all of us, okay?
I will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. And so to close, could I have a word that to kind of leave off the meeting? I'll start. Go ahead.
Oh, that was okay. Okay, I'll say energized, super excited. Okay, you go, Cecilia.
I am super energized too. Now I'm at the green battery stage. So there you go. Okay, and Eric.
He's got his phone.
Speechless.
Oh, you can type it in.
Oh, wait, he's gonna.
I was going to type it in too, but I did what I just y'all rock. Just you inspire me, so thanks.
Okay. Oh, pick some. I'm gonna pick Meg.
I was also going to say re-energized. So in agreement with re-energized, full charged.
All right. Yay. All right.
And I can't see who's on the call, so if there's someone else, it's your turn.
There's Amanda and Hassan.
One of you go ahead.
I'll just go. My word will be thoughtful.
Fabulous. And Hassan, finish us out.
I think so. Sort of two words. It's for Louisa. Bon voyage.
Yeah. Wonderful. All
Excited.
right. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great week. And we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.